Hi. This is Renee, and welcome to Grow and Tell, where we talk all about growing and sharing our insights and growth with each other. Today, I want to talk about why sharing your emotions and opening up to your friends is really, really important. I have learned this in such an interesting way, but it has literally, I feel like, lifted such a wall, not only with my friends, but with myself. It's been such a beautiful experience, and I want to encourage everyone to try it and share their emotions with the people that they love. So my journey with this was very interesting. Growing up, I think my parents, for the protection of me, would tell me don't trust everyone. Don't share everything about yourself. You don't need to tell people what you're going through, the negative or even the good, because maybe that's going to have bad karma, whatever. Try not to share too much. And I basically kept that belief or value until high school. And even if anything bad happened, I wouldn't even talk about it. I would pretend to be this happy, perfect girl who was just had no conflict. And whenever I did deal with it, it would just be by myself, which is obviously not good. Doing that can lead to depression, anxiety, way other different harmful, side effects that, keeping that in and handling it as yourself, even as a young person, probably isn't the best idea. So I remember in high school, one time I opened up, I had gone through this really young breakup, and I really liked that guy, so I was a mess. And I would talk to people about it, but I felt like, one, they just didn't seem like they were interested. Two, maybe the way that I was also not respecting their boundaries. So I kept on talking about it, or I kept on asking for reassurance or whatever. So that negative reinforcement where I felt like people didn't want to hear me, or I felt dismissed when I opened up, made me feel retracted more. Oh, my parents were right. I'm talking to people about my problems, and they either think I'm annoying or they push away, they distance themselves. And then I realized too, now even as I'm talking about it, I probably was talking to everyone about it. And I also probably didn't respect their boundaries, because as I grew older too, when people would talk to me about things, I felt like sometimes my boundaries were crossed. I'm not always available, or I don't always have the mental capacity to help someone. Maybe that was happening too. And I remember, one time when I talked to a friend about something that was happening in my personal life, that person retracted and didn't want to interact with the people in that party, or just kind of distance themselves from me. And I remember being wow, this is the first time too that I'm talking about something serious. And I felt like I was always available and readily available for them. But the moment I bring something up, they kind of detract away from me. So I was yeah, I'm not talking to anyone else with my problems ever. Even my best friend growing up, just didn't. So I kept everything in, and I was just such a depressed, anxious person in high school, and that kind of led to college too. Whenever something even small happened, I just blew up, because I was life sucks. Everything stacked up. I would hold everything in, and it just stacked up, and I would just blurt. When I first got my college long-term boyfriend, that was when I started opening up more with my emotions, because I felt this is someone who I can trust, who I feel safe with. But he was the only person I would talk to. No one else thought that I was going through any problems, or if they did, they just assumed I didn't talk about it, or I was being perceived as someone I wasn't, And not only did I feel like that gave a lot of stress to him, having to be my therapist or being my sole confider, I think that I was only getting one perspective, So I think sometimes when you talk to people who you're really close to with about things that you're dealing with, not only maybe have they dealt with that, currently dealing with that, or know someone who is dealing with that can give you another perspective. And it wasn't after my breakup with my long-term boyfriend. I would literally just lay on the couch and just shut down or cry. I didn't even express myself. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to tell someone that I am struggling right now. Like, I am having a rough day. Like, it was crazy. And my best friend / roommate, she would notice it. Like, I wasn't eating, and she would cut like apples for me or make dinner. And one day she was like, Renee, like, just tell me how you're feeling. I'm here for you. And she was the first person that I kind of shared my most authentic, true feelings with. And maybe it's also because I had felt safe with her. We lived together. She has seen me in a really low spot, but I started opening up to her about it. I also noticed that I would start opening up to like another one of my best friends, and she had just gone through another breakup too, and that kind of vulnerability brought us closer together because we were being vulnerable with each other. So I just to reiterate, like, I don't think, one, talking to everyone about your problems is good. Like, I remember when I just started to talk to my roommate about it, I remember I went to my habits again in high school where I would like even grab a drink with someone and I would tell them like X and Y, Z is happening, blah, blah, blah. But they don't know everything else about me as thorough as like my best friend roommates do. So I think be careful with who you're opening up with, not only for yourself, but also for your own mental state. Like, as someone who doesn't like to express themselves as much to people, like, I saw so many of those benefits of opening up to people, but because I knew those people knew me, they've seen me grow, they've seen me change, they know my beliefs and values, I felt safer to bring up things because I was like, okay, they know who I am, they know the way that I think, so feeling safe and vulnerable I think is a really important number one step before opening up to someone. I think number two also is just also recognizing that people have their boundaries. So I think asking people like, hey, do you have the mental bandwidth to hear what I have to say? Not expecting something to get from someone unless you're asking them specifically, like, I need advice or, I need support. I think that's really important. I think when I talk to people, not only do I get validated about my feelings, because sometimes it's easy for me to be like, why you even, like, it's your fault. Like, you shouldn't even thinking like that. Like, why did you think that? You're such a weak person. Like, I'm way more negative to myself than I am with my friends. And because when I open up to my friends, they're also way nicer to me about how I'm viewing myself with that problem. And that has helped me so much. So I, again, don't talk a lot about my problems to everyone, but I find people close to me who I value their opinion, their perspective, and I feel safe and trustworthy with them for me to actually open up with how I feel. There's so many benefits of doing that, and from my perspective, I think I shared like feeling lighter, getting more perspectives on things, not having the self-negative talk. But I also think it facilitates vulnerability, like I mentioned before, but I think it brings people closer together. And obviously you learn like the people who you shouldn't trust, and I've done that. But then I think that instead of having that wall be built up again, like, just learn those mistakes of being naive, of trusting someone maybe you shouldn't have, and you're trying your best. Like, sometimes I'd be like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that, but I didn't have any bad intent, and maybe next time maybe I shouldn't say something like that. But apologize if you felt like there's any miscommunication, but also remind yourself that you're human, So this podcast is pretty short. I just wanted to highlight that if there's something you're going through, know that you're probably not alone in that. So like, even if there's something you want to talk about here, feel free to DM me. Like, if I have the bandwidth, I would be happy to talk things with you. Sometimes you just need another perspective, someone to not only validate your feelings, but to help just calm those voices in your head. They say misery loves company, and I think that joy also loves company and comfort. So try to find someone that you trust, someone that knows you, knows your beliefs and values, and open up to them about something that you're struggling with, because that will help you also stand up for your beliefs and values. Like, when I am going through something, really difficult with my boyfriend, I talk to a best friend who not only knows me, but also knows my boyfriend's values and beliefs, and knows how much of a good person he is. So I will reframe the situation in a way that, provides the evidence and how I feel versus putting into words of this person's like that or that, but just share the situation, talk about how it makes me feel. And I feel like not only does the situation just get so much better, but I feel so much more confident and secure with myself. So as someone who always used to say, don't talk about your problems to anyone else, I'm telling you to do it, to trust someone. Start with one person. Like I only started with one person, and then it built to be 4 or 5. So I have 4 or 5 people that I feel like I can be vulnerable with, who know my capabilities, they know my logic, they know who I am, they know my beliefs and values. So they can't judge me because I would also not judge them. So that is what I have to share today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And remember, you are never, never alone. You always will have one person. And if you feel like you can't have that or name one person right now, know that you have me to open up with, to talk to, because you should never feel alone in life. And I remember when I felt alone, it was one of the scariest things ever. But sometimes you just need to be reminded that you are not alone. There has to be one person who values and cares for you like you should value and care for yourself, whether that be X, Y, and Z or yourself. You can do it. You are resilient and powerful. And start trusting more. It's hard. But once you can open up how you're feeling and share that pain that only you are taking in with someone else, that pain will be so much easier to handle and to heal. Have a great rest of your day. Sending you all my love. I'll see you guys later. Bye.